Hey, rock stars. If you've been on the entrepreneurship journey for a while, you know this feeling. In all the interviews, in all the coaching calls, one truth kept coming up over and over again. Leadership is lonely. Business development is lonely. And entrepreneurship is lonely. You can't just talk to anyone about it. That's why I created the Catalyst Club, a private, values-driven community where you can speak the truth, be your authentic self, and connect with people who understand what you're going through and can actually help. We made it private so you feel safe. We made it affordable so no one gets left out. And we built it on values that matter, like showing up, sharing knowledge, and choosing growth over ego. Inside, you'll find coffee with rock stars for real talk and connection, unplugged Q&A for live coaching and clarity, and Catalyst sessions with world-class experts who light a fire under your next move. We're building the most supportive business community on the internet, and we want you to help us do it. Join us today at kellykennedyofficial.com. We're just getting started. Welcome to our 2025 Halloween special of the Business Development Podcast. Tonight, we sit down with a true legend, the godfather of paranormal podcasting, the man behind the Paranormal Podcast and Jim Harold's Campfire, Jim Harold himself. For 20 years, Jim Harold has been captivating audiences around the world, proving that storytelling still holds the power to connect us, inspire us, and sometimes even give us a few chills along the way. His shows have defined an entire genre and inspired countless creators, myself included. Without Mr. Harold, this very podcast might never have existed. So settle in, dim the lights, and get ready for a conversation that celebrates passion, persistence, and the legacy of a true pioneer. Stick with us. You won't want to miss this very special episode.
The great Mark Cuban once said, "Business happens over years and years. Value is measured in the total upside of a business relationship, not by how much you squeezed out in any one deal." And we couldn't agree more. This is the Business Development Podcast, based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and broadcasting to the world. You'll get expert business development advice, tips and experiences, and you'll hear interviews with business owners, CEOs, and business development reps. You'll get actionable advice on how to grow business. Brought to you by Capital Business Development, capitalbd.ca. Let's do it. Welcome to the Business Development Podcast. And now your expert host, Kelly Kennedy.
Hello, welcome to episode 285 of the Business Development Podcast and our Halloween special for 2025. Today, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome a true podcasting legend, Jim Harold. Jim is the godfather of paranormal podcasting, the man who built an entire genre and proved that independent voices could stand shoulder to shoulder with the biggest networks in the world. Since 2005, he has been captivating millions with the Paranormal Podcast and Jim Harold's Campfire, amassing over 80 million downloads and producing more than 3,000 episodes that have become the gold standard for storytelling about the unknown. His Campfire book series has topped Amazon's supernatural charts again and again. And this year, he celebrates 20 years of redefining what it means to be a podcaster. Jim didn't just create shows. He created a movement. He gave a voice to thousands of people who had never been heard. And in doing so, built one of the most loyal audiences in podcasting history. His impact reaches far beyond the paranormal. He has inspired countless creators, myself included. In fact, the Paranormal Podcast was the very first podcast that I ever listened to back in 2015. Sitting here today with you, Jim, is more than just an interview. It's an honor and a privilege. Welcome to the Business Development Podcast's 2025 special.
Welcome. And I don't know if you can hear in the background, my dogs are barking. So this shows what it truly means to be an independent podcaster. But thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me on the show and for those very, very kind words. It's amazing to me that, people have listened and they've really taken it to heart and started their own podcasting journey, whether it be in the paranormal or something totally different. So that's very rewarding for me. And it's really great to hear. And I got to say, I'm excited to be here because usually when I'm on podcasts, I get to talk only spooky stuff. And I know this being the Halloween special, we're going to talk about some spooky stuff, of course, but also the business side of it, because I think without one, there's not the other. So I'm anxious to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's so funny. You've been such a major part of our family and our household for so many years. Big reason that Shelby's here. She's not always here on these particular episodes, but when I told her that we were meeting Jim Harold, she's like, yeah, I'll be there.
Awesome.
We actually have a ritual in our house, Jim, where almost every Saturday for the last 5 or nearly 6 years, we've cooked breakfast and listened to Jim Harold's Campfire with our boys.
Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah, so it's been cool, man. Like you've really been the inspiration for me as a podcaster. Frankly, like I said, I wouldn't even be listening to podcasts, I think, had I not found the Paranormal Podcast way back in 2015. And actually, I can tell you the very first episode that I ever listened to with you was when you interviewed one of the authors for The Hunt for the Skinwalker.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. I remember that. That's going back a few years.
I will let you know that I immediately went and bought the book. So you are selling a ton of books for these authors, for anyone listening right now.
That's good.
It was a cool experience. And I remember, too, the very first time that I actually found you on Google, I was surprised because you sound so much older than you are.
Oh, my God. I get that constantly. I don't know what it is about my voice, but for some reason, people think I'm really old. I can't figure out what it is. But no, I get that consistently.
Yeah.
And, just the other day, somebody on Spotify, I didn't realize how young Jim is. I'm like, yeah, keep talking. That's good. But the thing is that, I don't know what it is. I think maybe I've been trying to figure it out because I don't think my voice, the tenor of my voice sounds old. But honestly, I think it's because I'm more of a product of old school broadcasting.
Yeah.
So I kind of pattern my speech in that way. So people think, this guy's got to be ancient.
Yeah. No, not the case. No, and actually, please don't change it because at this point, I don't think I could take that.
I don't think I could change it if I wanted
to. Super, super cool. And I actually used you as an example. I think when I reached out to you, I said, hey, I'm doing a series right now teaching podcasting on the Business Development Podcast because I think all businesses moving forward need some form of, outside representation.
Sure.
And podcasts are absolutely incredible for that. So I just decided I'm going to put together, a 10-part on everything I've learned in, starting a podcast, building a podcast from scratch. And I did use you and the Paranormal Podcast as, the perfect example for how to niche yourself out and name a show in such a way that when people search you, they will find you. And actually, I based my show, the Business Development Podcast, on the Paranormal Podcast, because guess what? You are the king of paranormal. And I wanted to figure out how to carve that same niche in the business development space. And so you were a major inspiration for this particular show. And I just wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you for putting in so much effort and changing so many people's lives, mine included. I think it's hard as a podcaster to realize how far your impact reaches. Most people aren't reaching out to you. I reached out to you for the first time, 10 years of listening to you? 10 years of listening to you, right? I don't think we quite put together how far our reach is as podcasters.
I agree. We were running an errand the other day, and this, my wife, Dar, and I, and she's become over the years. I mean, she's always been a part behind the scenes, even when she wasn't working on the business, just supporting, in general, of course, and I couldn't have done any of this without her. But over the years, she's become more visible, and now we do a show together and so forth. But we were out on an errand, and two people walked up to us and said, "You're the Herald." And I was like blown away. I'm like, wait a minute. wait a minute, this doesn't happen to me. And you're right. You never know who's listening. You never know where they're listening from. You never know the impact. I mean, Campfire, for example, which I started, paranormal podcast in '05, Campfire in '09. I thought, oh, it'll be cool just to share some spooky stories. Isn't that cool? And it does have that about it. But also some people find it comforting, maybe when they've lost a loved one, because we do share the, really terrifying stories, but we also share the ones that are more heartwarming too, about someone who got a message from a loved one. And to realize, or I'm sure with you, with your business podcast, I know if it hasn't happened already, I'm sure it will, but probably has happened. Somebody said, I listened to your podcast and it inspired me to take on this project or start this business or do this thing. We do make a difference, but I do think you got to remember, with much power comes much responsibility. And I think anybody that gets behind the mic for a podcast needs to know, once you put that out there, you don't know who's going to be listening. So be responsible with that and be thoughtful about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that messaging too. And, it was surprising for me, but how many people go back and listen to all of your episodes, right? Like, I would say at this point, we get more downloads to our back catalog. And this might actually be similar for you as well, but we get way more downloads to our back catalog than even our brand new episodes. Yeah, they get that boost of that launch day boost, but over time, if you go back, in some of our most listened to episodes are back catalog episodes.
Yeah. Well, for me, and it gets into the business plan part of that, that is a huge part of my Plus Club, our back catalog episode. Yes. So we can talk about that more, but they're very important. And that's the thing. It's like I've often said, I've thought about it in years to come, as and I hope I'm around 20, 30, 40 more years. But, I'm thinking about these shows also for my children to have, something that they can continue to capitalize on, and people can listen to the back catalog 20, 30 years from now. I know I love old time radio and things. I listen to shows that were made in the 40s. I listened to CBS Radio Mystery Theater that was made in the 70s. And I can imagine, given the topic of our shows, particularly the Campfire, which is not dated at all, people could be listening to these shows 30, 40 years from now, when I'm probably not around here.
They absolutely will be. And here's my proof. So when I found Campfire for the first time, I was looking for something similar to Art Bell's Halloween specials. And
Ghost to Ghost.
Ghost to Ghost, exactly. I remember as like a young BD guy on the road all the time, and you spent time in BD, so I know you get that world. I was just on the road traveling from place to place, and I absolutely loved listening to Ghost AM, Art Bell's Halloween specials. And honestly, like you have just replicated that in such an incredible, and outdid what Art Bell, I'm sure he wanted something that long, but just basically turned something that was a segment into its own individual successful show, which frankly, I haven't listened to one I didn't love.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. The weird thing is that, I have done projects I thought, oh, this is going to be huge. People are going to love this. And it kind of goes, wah, wah, wah. But then Campfire was a total accident. What happened is if you've been listening for years, you probably heard this story. I basically had a week for the paranormal podcast. I didn't have a guest. And I'm like, well, what can we do? We'll just do a week of listener stories. And I think I got 4 or 5 people to come on the show and just tell their stories. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. And it got a good reaction.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, this is a different show. And I'm like, well, what can I call it? And it's kind of like the same methodology I use for the paranormal podcast, because the paranormal podcast, I'm like, well, it's paranormal and it's podcast. And these days they say, don't do that. Don't use podcast to your name, but I'm not changing it. It's been 20 years. So I'm keeping the same. But anyway, I thought, well, I'm not the brightest person, but it's paranormal and a podcast. I'll call it Paranormal Podcast. And it was so early that I got that name. So with Campfire, I'm like, well, what could it be? People around telling stories. Well, they're around a campfire. And I thought, well, 1 million people either have or are going to have Campfire in their title. So I'll just call it Jim Harold's Campfire, because as far as I know, I'm the only Jim Harold doing paranormal podcast. So that kind of stuck. But it was one of those things. Sometimes your biggest successes in business what is it they say about the microwave? It was people working on something for the military during World War II, and they had a candy bar in their pocket, and they stood in front of this microwave, and it melted. And they're like, wait a minute, we can cook stuff with this.
Yeah.
I mean, same kind of thing. I think that the thing, though, it's that old saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yeah.
If you try, not saying you should be aimless, but if you try different things, some of them are going to work or some of them aren't going to work. But if you don't try things, it's guaranteed. It's the old Gretzky. How many cliches can I use in this episode?
As many as you like.
Yeah. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yes.
So, I took a shot on that. And that's really, to be honest with you, that's what powers the whole business. Campfire has kind of eclipsed the paranormal podcast, even though I still put it out every week. In fact, for the Halloween season, I don't know how this is going to time out, but for the Halloween season, we're going to actually do a couple of episodes a week, kind of ramp it up for the Halloween season for Paranormal Podcast as a special treat. But it's one of those things. It's had some staying power, and I love the Campfire. And again, it's the basis where I would do. And this is why I've been able to do it full time since 2012 is a Campfire specifically.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that I enjoy both. We listen to both. And I think, like I said, they're very different shows. Like, you get to explore different ideas with Paranormal Podcast, and you get to allow people to explore and share their stories through Campfire. Like, it's the perfect blend. It's the perfect blend.
Thank you.
But please, for the listeners who are maybe getting to hear you for the first time as a business audience, I hope that some of them are listening to the Paranormal Podcast and Jim Harold's Campfire. But if they're not, let's give them the story. Take me back to 2005. I'll be honest, I was in grade 10. I'm almost 40, so that just gives you an idea. I was in grade 10 back then, and I wasn't even remotely listening to podcasts yet. I think if I was lucky, I had my very first iPod.
Yeah. The way it happened for me was I'd always been a talk radio fan. And there was this guy, and that goes back to Art Bell and Larry King and all these different talk radio guys. I was the weird teenager listening to talk radio in my ear, and then I think Art came in my 20s and really enjoyed what he did. He was the best ever to do this. Yeah. But anyhow, I had gone to school for broadcasting. And graduated in the early 90s and then proceeded to get a job at a radio station, but as a sales assistant because it was the job I could get because that used to be the guidance. Hey, get a job in any TV or radio station you can get and go from there. The important thing is to get into the industry. Well, my full intention had been to be a broadcaster. I never once considered sales as a career. And lo and behold, I kind of fell into radio sales, advertising sales. And that was probably about 1994, 95. And then I looked up and it was 2005. And it's like, guess I'm not going to be doing that broadcasting thing. I've got a wife, we still have, and 2 kids, which I still have, but now they're grown up and they're out of the house. Recent empty nester. And it's like I'm never going to be able to follow this dream. And then I heard about this thing called podcasting. First, as a listener, there was a guy by the name of Leo Laporte, a tech journalist who used to be on something called ZDTV, then Tech TV. I used to love that. They did away with the channel, whatever. And I said, I wonder whatever happened to that guy. I really liked listening to him. And then I found his radio show on I think it was a KFI website or something. It's probably like at that point to date it if people remember are old enough to remember Real Player and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I started listening to his shows and it's also available as a podcast. And I'm like, a what cast? And I started listening. This must have been 2004, late 2004, early 2005. And then Adam Curry, I found out the former MTV guy had a podcast. In fact, he was basically the co-inventor of podcasting along with Dave Weiner. I started listening to his podcast called Daily Source Code. And I said, you know what? I could do this for fun. I could get a cheapo mic and plug it into my crappy Windows computer and I could do a podcast. And because I'd listened to Adam and Leo, I'm like, oh my God, I can't do what they're doing. They're seasoned, great broadcasters. But then I listened to some of the homemade stuff from 2005. And it's like, well, I could do that.
Yeah.
And then I thought about, what am I going to do it on? And at this point, keep in mind, this was solely as a hobby. Really, nobody was making money at this at that point. Nobody. And I thought, oh, this will be so cool because I'll be able to scratch my broadcasting itch. I'm not quitting my day job. This is solely for fun. If anything, it's going to cost me money. So I thought, well, politics, I don't want to make people angry. I want to get along with everyone. Music, you couldn't do it. And it's a sin. You still can't do anything with music with podcasting because of rights issues. That's a horrible thing. As sports, what am I going to add? I'm just a fan. And I've been fascinated about the paranormal since I was a kid, going back to In Search Of. And the beauty of that is nobody's an expert because nobody really knows what's going on.
That's right.
And I still feel that way, actually. And there's people who are expert on theories and so forth, but I don't think any of us have cracked it.
Sure.
But anyway, I thought I'll do that. Named it the Paranormal Podcast, bought, I think, a Plantronics $30 headset, and basically taught myself. And everything when I went to school was all analog based, all the broadcasting equipment, because right before, nonlinear editing and stuff came in for audio and video. So everything was pushing physical buttons, and radio stuff was like literally a razor blade. A physical razor blade, you would cut tape and mark it, and you would. So anyway, The point being that I had to kind of teach myself the digital tools, which I did. I think I used Odyssey like so many people still do. And I got a Libsyn account and was with them for many years up until a little over a year ago as a host, and started doing the show for fun. Kind of did it for a while, then slowed down because I got a promotion and I had a team of people at my work and things got busy. And then lo and behold, I got fired. The only time I ever got fired in my whole career, and it's the best thing that ever happened. And you've probably heard that one before.
I have, yeah.
And through not business development folks can figure. I increased sales 30%, moved a whole department, hired a new department, increased revenue by 33% over the course of the year, and it still wasn't good enough.
Wow.
So good enough, whatever.
Yeah.
And actually, if I could see that person who fired me, I would shake their hand and say, thank you. Because at that point, I wasn't ready to strike out on my own. The podcasts were still, just a hobby. And I was getting kind of spotty with the production, honestly. Still doing it, but now and then. And so long story short, I got a job with a major broadcaster, CBS Radio. And I was the head of their internet sales for a cluster of stations in Cleveland, 4 stations. And my job was to convince the salespeople to sell internet advertising before smartphones.
Wow. Yeah.
Not an easy job. Because it was all banners and stuff.
Yeah.
So I got that job, and I really liked the people that I worked with, and I worked with some great people over there. And I outlasted almost everybody because you would call in every market around the country, and they had at that point, it's no longer, it became CBS Radio, then it was, now it's Odyssey, and it's all melded with other companies, but this was CBS at the time. And every call, there would be different people in every market. They would burn through these people because it was an impossible job, because the salespeople didn't want to sell internet advertising. They didn't want to change. They used to say chasing digital dimes and passing up, real dollars, something like that. So it was a hard job, but I learned learned a ton, which has helped me in this job.
You bet.
But at some point I thought when I'm like, this is the job. I'm working for a big radio conglomerate, multiple stations. This is really where I'm going to make my mark. And then about almost a year in, I'm like, I'm not sure what kind of mark I'm going to make here. It's a good job, good people, fairly compensated, all that, but this is not going to be my life's work. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute. all these people are asking for more podcast episodes, and I'm just kind of ignoring them. Let's really crank it up. And what happened, I remember the point, because I think most people, when they have a pivotal point in their business, they remember where they were.
Yeah.
I was sitting in my daughter's t-ball game, and I was listening to Dan Carlin, Hardcore History, and he's one of the OG podcasters, preceded me, certainly. And this had to be probably June of... what would have been 2008, something like that, somewhere around there, summer of 2008. And I heard him, and he had an ad for Audible. And I thought to myself, well, you dummy, people are clamoring for more shows. You're not putting out more shows. Here, podcasters are getting real sponsors now. You can do something you love, and maybe you can make a little side income at it. So I told my wife, I said, 6 months, I'm going to put out a show every week for 6 months. And see what happened. About the 6 months, I was contacted out of the blue by an agency saying, hey, we've got a client who wants to sponsor your show. It's called Audible. And that was like, ding, there's your sign. And then I got very religious about it and never missed an episode and brought in the Campfire. And then in, I think it was 2011, I said, I'd listened to other podcasters like Cliff Ravenscraft and people who were doing this premium thing. And this is before Patreon or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was all like, you'd have to have this service, talk to that service. It was really kind of kludged together with plugins and stuff. But I said, I'm going to give it a try. And my first day that I had a Plus Club, I got 200 members.
Wow.
And I said, okay, this is real. This is a path to independence, towards doing my own thing. And, ever since then, June of 2012, I quit my full-time job. My wife was very understanding. And started in June of 2012 full-time and been full-time ever since. Now, that's not to say we don't have challenges. Even now is a challenging time because we've seen certain revenue streams go down.
Yeah.
And that's something else we can talk about, the importance of multiple income streams. But that's what set me off, and that's kind of my story. And so to me, I look at it two ways, and I have a model for this. I worked for a classical radio station, which was a commercial station. They're pretty much not commercial anymore. They're all public. But in the 90s and the 2000s, they were still some commercial classical stations. I worked with a gentleman. His name was Robert Conrad, just like the actor. But this guy had founded the station, co-founded in the 60s. Had worked on the programming side up until the 90s, I think, early 90s, when he became an owner, or became the owner of the station. And he always had one hemisphere in the business side and one hemisphere on the programming side. And he always fought to do the right thing on both sides. And he was kind of my model. He was also the voice of the Cleveland Orchestra for over on the radio that was syndicated all over the world for over 40 years. So a tremendous broadcaster, but also smart business-wise. And he always tried to do the right thing for his audience, the right thing for his business, and the right thing for the product. And he was kind of my model, because I kind of consider myself split-brained when I do this. Half of me is like, okay, programming. The other part is sales. It's kind of like newspapers have editorial and then the publishing side. That's the way it works. I kind of view it as I always take any decision as, will this work business-wise? Will it work? If it doesn't work on both sides, I don't do it. For example, I've turned down a lot of ad deals for things I don't believe in. Yeah. Whether it's like supplements that are shady, or one time there was a charity that a major agency came to me and said, "Oh, we want," and it's one you'll hear on radio, traditional radio, if you listen. And I said, why didn't you want to do this? And I said, I look them up and they give far too little to the actual kids that they purport to serve. So, the thing is, I always try to do the right thing for the business and for the programming side. I always try to keep that both in mind.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense because at the end of the day, you have to feel good about what you're doing too, right?
Right.
Like, we're not just out here doing this willy-nilly. Like, at the end of the day, we have passions, we have things that we believe in, and it has to
Yeah.
match.
And it's good business too, I think. I mean, it's not 100%, but the vast, vast majority of things because I do a lot of host-read ads. In fact, we had somebody tell me back in the spring that that one particular month we were for a major brand, the best performing podcast that they had. And
Wow.
I think that's because I don't bring crap to my audience. I bring things that I've used or would use and things that I feel that are a good product. And I think that's, again, I think sometimes you can do good and do well at the same time.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to say, hey, babe, didn't Liquid IV show up in our house not that long ago?
It did.
Yeah, Liquid IV.
It did. If you're looking for an ad angle, it might be for the home birthing mamas of the world.
Oh, wow.
We needed electrolytes for that birth journey.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it made its way into our home for sure.
Yeah. It's a good In fact, I just had one last night. I kid you not.
Hopefully they've sent you a lifetime supply.
They send some.
My gosh, though, so you mentioned that, was it 2011 then that you went full-time into podcasting?
2012, I went full-time. I started the Plus Club. So it wasn't like, because a lot of people are like, how can I start podcasting today and quit my job tomorrow? And it's like, I don't know how you can do that. If you figure that out, good luck. Because it took me literally, I mean, I would start to clock in 2008 because that's when I really got serious, even though the show was in production from 05 to 08. 08's when I really got super serious. So it took me 4 years.
Yeah.
And I got to admit, I got to say, and this, I don't mean to be discouraging to anybody because I do believe you should start a podcast if you have a passion, whether you just want to pursue that passion or you want to try to do it business-wise. Who am I to say don't try? But I'd say I had a first mover advantage.
Yes.
I had a big first mover advantage. I don't think there's any question about that. And that helped me incredibly. But even with that, it took me 4 years.
Yep. Yeah, I absolutely. And I would say too, like the fact that you were able to name your show The Paranormal Podcast, no matter who came after you, you were the one, right?
Yeah, no, it helped me immensely. It helped me immensely. There's no question about it. There's like a couple of decisions, and then I'm going to give you one that I made that was a huge mistake. Those two decisions, the Campfire decision and the naming of the Paranormal Podcast, were two key decisions. Here's one where I made a big mistake. And gosh, I wish I knew the exact date of it, but it was before, the podcast Serial that kind of kicked off the whole true crime craze. Well, I remember being at the local community pool and saying, I ought to add a true crime podcast. And this was a year or two before Serial. And I started one, which would seem to be a masterstroke, but I made one key mistake. I put it in my Premium Plus Club, which limited its reach.
Yeah.
So maybe if I had put that out in the public and it had caught on, maybe you'd be saying, true crime podcasting pioneer, Jim Harrell. So, I mean, and I think it's almost any business is you can look back and say, boy, did I hit it out of the park with that one? Boy, that was a good idea. And then you look at another one, you go, yeah, I missed on that one. And I think it's kind of like what I try to tell my wife and I try to tell our kids when they're down. It's like life is a roller coaster. And, you may be one of the blessed people who are always on top and never have a problem. But in my experience, there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. I think one of the biggest things about sustaining business, whether it's business development and sales, whether it's owning a business, is being able to take the punches, take the good with the bad, and being able to keep going, and never give up. And I think that my stubbornness is one of my best assets, is that I just don't give up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I don't know, what could there be ever? 50, 100 podcasters in the world ever who've made it 20 years? Like you are in such a unique category at that amount and that duration of time. Like I said, I'm sure it's 50, 100 tops, period, in the world. What does that mean? What has that meant for you personally? I guess, like, as somebody who, for me, I'm going into my 3rd year of podcasting, and it has been a slog. It has been a lot of work to get to 3 years, let alone 20. Let alone 20 when, let's say, the first 6 or 8 years, you weren't really making a whole lot of money from the show. It was truly a passion project for you. Talk to me a little bit about what the 20-year anniversary has meant for you personally.
It's kind of a validation. It's like there's no way that I could do this as long as if I've done this and it not be good to some extent.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it's not for everybody. Some people listen to my show and they go, it's not for me. It's boring or whatever. But there are a group of people out there who resonate with it and say, this is good quality stuff. And I mean, just as we're recording this just last week now, we were lucky Spotify spotlit me for a week,
cool.
But we were number 2 on the Society and Culture charts.
Wow.
And that was against Oprah and iHeartRadio and all these huge mega media corporations, in many cases beating them. And that kind of thing just gives me fuel to keep going, because obviously we're doing something right. We're not doing everything right. And one of my big business kind of philosophies, I work for one company where this was their big mantra. I don't know if they always lived up to it, but I did agree with it, was continuous improvement.
Yeah.
And you've always got to, I mean, last year I did a massive upgrade on my hosting for my shows. I did a massive upgrade for my hosting for my website, which people are de-emphasizing these days because of social media, thinking they can just live on social media, which is a mistake. And this year we rolled out a dedicated community. So even 20 years in, I'm trying to think, okay, how can we take the next step? How can we make this bigger? How can we make this better? Because if you don't, you stagnate. So, but for me, to your question, having those milestones, being high on the charts, saying I've have the longest running paranormal podcast on the internet, which it is as far as I can tell.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To me, that's validation. You're doing something right, but there's always room to get better.
That's right. But there's also, just the people who love what you do, being the other side of it as well. Like, the reality is the campfire is the campfire is the campfire. I enjoy it just as much today as I did 5-10 years ago, right? Like, there's something about having something that just works that people get nostalgic about, that just love. You know what I love about Paranormal Podcast and Campfire? I love that no matter what, I know what I'm going to get.
Right.
And I'm going to love it.
Right. You know what, to me it is? It's the Price is Right. I mean, I'm not comparing it to the Price is Right. I mean, obviously that has generated billions of dollars and has way more cultural impact than my shows will ever have. But I will say this, is that I think that's what I used to love when I was a kid. And you have it up there too, I'm sure as well. When I was a kid, it was a big thing in the States. When you were sick, you had your ginger ale, you had your noodle soup and Bob Barker.
You bet.
And and to me, I hope because now what I'm getting a lot is, and you're kind of doing it with your family. Oh, I listened to the shows growing up. My dad would drive me to school and I listened to the shows, and now I'm listening, and now it makes me feel a little old, but it's also extremely gratifying. It's extremely gratifying that it's become a family tradition for people. Yeah. So, I mean, it's really kind of the ultimate feel good, that you can make something that's a business and still make it something that families can enjoy. You wouldn't necessarily think of that about a ghost show, but we try to keep it. I mean, there's some stuff I wouldn't necessarily let my kids listen to when they were little. Sure. But we keep broadcast standards, and we request that people don't curse and those kind of things. So, but it is heartwarming for me to know that it is something that people gravitate to year after year after year.
Well, I can tell you that this family, the Kennedy household, has made a lot of great memories listening to Jim Harold's Campfire, literally around a campfire, a lot of situations this summer.
Excellent.
But not just that. Like, you know, like I said, Saturday mornings, cooking breakfast. It's a tradition. The boys are just used to coming downstairs. We're making breakfast. Campfire's on, right? Like it's you've done such an exceptional job with it. Like you really are going to be the case study one day for how to do a podcast right. I can pretty much guarantee you.
Oh,
so
thank you.
it's a privilege to have you here. You know, I did want to talk to you a little bit about how, you know, your time, because obviously advertising and growing a podcast is a very challenging thing. I think that's probably the biggest hurdle that most new podcasters face, is that there's a lot of people out there saying, oh, buy my crappy podcast advertising and I'll get you whatever, 1,000 likes here and there,
Right.
and left, right, and center. And it's only getting worse. You know, I would like to maybe understand the approach that you took in growing your show, because I think that could be really valuable. We have a lot of podcasters who listen to this show. I think that could be really valuable, learning from somebody who worked in radio advertising, who grew his own show exceptionally well. Talk to us a little bit about what your strategy was.
Well, I think, again, I did have first mover advantage, so I can't take all the credit. Some of it was just timing. But I would say this is that if somebody approaches you and says, you know, I will get you X likes, and many podcasters now are on YouTube, I'll get you X views and those kind of things, I would steer very, very far clear from all of that. One very simple strategy, I think, now this would require some investment. You might have to, or you might have to do something like a promo swap, is approach other people in your niche. Let's say that you have a bottle cap collecting podcast, which I'm sure there's one of those out there.
Absolutely.
And you're starting another bottle cap collecting podcast, but it's you don't see it as a competitor. You're kind of alongside. Maybe you have a different take on bottle cap collecting. Say, what would it cost to put an ad in your show? And do it very directly, and those kind of things. That's a strategy. Certainly you want to do social media and be in the places, because of algorithms, that's tougher than always. Certainly I've done a lot of social media over the years, and we grew our Facebook group to 27,000 members. But as I said, we're taking that to a separate dedicated community that I have to pay for, but I was kind of getting sick of Facebook burying everything we post and everything that people contribute in the group. So I would say, first of all, consistency, quality. That doesn't mean you have to go out and buy the best equipment available. I mean, right now I have tremendously good equipment, but I started off with a $30 headset. But really, I mean, you can get started these days. You can buy a USB mic for $60 or $70. And if you're in a quiet space, that'll get you 70% of the way there, 80% of the way there. You know, there's so many more resources to learn how to do it technically now than there were when I started. So, I mean, to grow it though, I think you try to network within your community responsibly. Don't be a spammer. You know, don't go in a Facebook group that you just joined and say, hey, listen to my podcast, listen to my podcast.
Yeah.
That's not right.
Yeah.
But, you know, you go in groups and you go in communities and you become a resource, and then say, oh, by the way, I have this show. And by the way, and then ask your listeners. That's your best sales force right there, is ask your listeners. You know, what I often say, and it's true, I don't have big marketing budgets like these huge companies, but I have something more important. I have you. So please text a link to this show to a friend, to a family member, someone who loves the spooky. That they're your best sales force, because they already believe.
Yeah. And actually, you know, what we've found in business development and marketing is that nothing trumps word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
Nothing trumps somebody else promoting you. I always say you're almost the worst person to promote yourself, because it's like, of course. But if you can get other people to say, have you heard Jim Harold's Campfire? Because it's friggin' amazing. That's going to sell your show better than just about anything else.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I think, and I love to hear these little viral stories of a lot of people come on the show and say, hey, you know, my Aunt Betty told me about this show and I decided that I wanted to call in. And you've heard me say it before, be like Aunt Betty. Tell a friend about the Campfire today, and then we'll get great stories like this one.
Yes.
You know, so, you know, spin it spin it that way. You could do things as simple as audience participation, have people write in with questions or something like that. So make a personal connection with your audience.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. Shelb, I've been stealing the questions. I can kind of see you sitting there. Do you have something that you want to ask Jim?
Oh, I have so many questions, I think.
I know.
I guess one thing I've been curious about, we've talked a little bit about your journey and how you've gotten to where you are today. I'm curious, is there anything on the horizon for you in your business? Like, is there a kind of a white buffalo grand vision that you've been working toward, or even something that scares you in business still that you haven't tried yet?
Well, there's a couple things that we've done this year. I dabbled in video in the 2010s. We did a show for a while called The Paranormal Report that was in video, but got away from it because nobody was paying attention and it was triple the work. But video over the last year has come back in a big way. I mean, we don't have huge numbers on it, but I'm doing video on YouTube of the Paranormal Podcast and Campfire. And I think that has been kind of fun because I think that, 16 years in adds a new wrinkle to the show for Campfire because people can see the storytellers. We do give the storytellers the option not to include their video. In that case, it's just me kind of looking and doing this. But, but in general, I think that's added a dimension. I want to do more public stuff. We have a couple things coming up in fourth quarter this year, small things, which I'm kind of looking at as a way to it's like a stand-up comedian going to a small club and trying out their material and then working up. And then we have something preliminarily planned for late summer next year that'll be a little bit bigger. So that's a big thing, is more in-person kind of things. I think that's something where we've left some opportunities on the table. But now with both my kids out of the house, we have a lot more flexibility. And that's something I've always wanted to push in a harder way. And I think we're going to do that in 2026. So I would say video and that. And we have some other things that we're hopeful. We're doing a lot. We're doing video on Spotify, which I think gives us a lot of promotional opportunities. So I think that looking to hopefully grow this show substantially in 2026, more video and more live appearances. That's kind of what it's looking like now for the future.
Well,
one of my questions regarding video, because, we've always had video, but what we've done is we've shared clips. So, I guess my thought when I started a podcast was I always listened to podcasts. I listened to them on the road. Right. I listened to them while I was mowing the lawn. I listened to them while I was working, but I listened to them. So I always looked at it why go the video route for all of the extra work? Like you said, it's not a walk in a park.
It's 3 or 4 times the work. Yes.
It's a lot of extra work for maybe not that same return. When I heard that you were going to video, I immediately wanted to reach out to you and ask you about that decision. Because I've seen, for instance, the Scared to Death podcast has opted to go away from video. They were a video show from the beginning, and they said, you know what? Only 2% of our listeners are watching this video. Everybody's listening. We're going back to audio. It was an amazing trial. What has been your experience transitioning to video so far?
Well, the funny thing, first of all, we're still audio first. I mean, and the stats hold well over 95% of our people are still audio. The thing that surprises me about video, though, is the amount of interaction you get for the relatively small amount of people.
Yeah.
To me, I view YouTube specifically as a discovery engine.
Okay.
In other words, I'm with you. When I listen to, even if I'm watching it on YouTube, most of the time I put it on my phone and I set my phone out. I'm an audio guy.
Yeah.
Because a podcast, I heard somebody say, I thought it was a great quote, is something you can listen to while your eyes are busy.
That's right.
So I kind of agree with you. For the most part, I'm mostly an audio guy too. But there are people who are never going to open Apple Podcasts. There are people who are never going to open Spotify and look for podcasts. Now, look for music, but they won't look for podcasts. So for me, the benefit of YouTube is a discovery engine, and it's another on-ramp to get people into the ecosystem. I don't think video viewers are as loyal. I don't think that they consume for as long.
Mm-hmm.
I think audio is still the gold standard for people who consider them podcasters. And I really hope what doesn't happen in podcasting, which I fear is what's going to happen as podcasting, is that people are going to just start doing YouTube videos and saying, I'm a podcaster.
Yeah.
But I don't think, and I know the people at Scared to Death, they're very smart people and do a great show. So I totally respect where they're coming from, and they're not wrong.
Yeah.
I just feel for me where I'm at, I need, to keep things fresh. I need new ways for people to discover the shows. And I think YouTube is a good way to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I guess, like, for instance, we have 5 kids. 3 of them are at YouTube watching age. And, like I said, they don't typically sit and watch a 30-minute video or an hour-long video. Like, the attention spans they have are so limited, right? But they will sit outside or they'll ride in the truck and they'll listen to Campfire, or they'll sit at the campfire and listen to Campfire. Like, there's certain situations where they will 100% sit and listen. And I think that audio format, on a certain level, forces you to pay more attention.
Yeah, I do. I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, if I had to survive on my video earnings, I would either have a tin cup or going back to one of the radio stations. No, I mean, video has cost me way more money than it's ever made me.
Yeah.
I mean, but I've determined, and over the years, I've upgraded my equipment, and I've determined, just like audio, I am going to try to put out a video product that is as good as it can possibly be. So we've got high-end cameras, high-end lights.
Yeah.
I've tried to do everything. So if it doesn't strike, it's not because, oh, well, I don't have but really, to be honest with you, these days, I think with video, weirdly enough, the most important part of your video is your audio. Mm-hmm. Because people don't really care about the video quality or you being well lit. But if they can't hear you well,
yes,
they automatically think, oh, this is somebody making this with their device, and they don't want to. And we know some of the most popular clips are just done on this. We know that. So, I mean, the thing is that I don't know how well over time the shows will transfer, but I just added video to Spotify for Campfire, and people are saying, who didn't know I was on YouTube, even though I mentioned it on the shows.
Yeah.
They say, oh, I love now that we can see it. So everybody's different. You never know how people are going to react. So now we have video on Spotify for Campfire, video on Spotify for the Paranormal Podcast, and of course, both on YouTube.
Wow. Yeah. No, so you've just jumped in. Well, I'm interested. I feel like I want to follow back up with you in a year and just maybe better explore how that's worked for you or not. Because the future of podcasting is something that I'm invested in. I'm in. I want to see where this thing goes. I love doing it. But I love the traditional nature of an audio show. And I think no matter what path we go down with the BDP, I think audio will still always stay the primary format of the show, even if we do some video, because I think you're absolutely right. Too. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Like, when I was teaching podcasting, I said, listen, the most important thing is that you have good audio, because it doesn't matter what your message is if people can't get past the front cover.
Right. You could have the best content in the world, but it's just like a book. You said, if you pick up a book from a bookstore and it's like, well, every other page is blank and it looks like the cover was made on Microsoft Paint, you're not going to buy the book, but it could have the best content.
That's right. So and it's the same with marketing materials or anything.
It's almost like the price. And I think back in the day, people were more forgiving because they're like, but if you want to compete against the big boys, just the table stakes are having good sound. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have, I laugh at some of these podcasts I hear. Sound designed by this one, editing by this one, editorial, this one. There's like 50 people on the podcast to make the podcast. And I understand some of them are very beautifully done and they've got these great sound effects and sound design and things. But it's like, oh my gosh. I'm like, the only full-time employee of my company, and we put out multiple podcasts a week.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are these people doing all this time?
Yes.
But anyway. But if you're in podcasting, you are competing, because what you're competing is people have a certain amount of time, and that's all the time they have. That's our most precious commodity, right? So if a podcast listener spends 4 hours a week, you're going against the CBC up in Canada. You're going against NPR here, New York Times, Oprah, iHeartRadio. You're going against all these professional people. So you've got to at least sound like you belong for people to even consider you.
Well, and frankly, you've been at this since the very beginning, when it wasn't easy to get a good sound. And we're at a point now where you can have a little home studio. I know you're working from your home studio. I'm working from my home studio. Right. And you can get exceptional sound utilizing the tools available to you today. And
a lot of these big ones are recorded in home studios. A lot of these actors and things I don't think are going to separate studios. They don't have to now. I mean, my gosh, I've got a Neumann mic here, which is like the Howard Stern mic that you'd find at NPR or something. I mean, if you can buy all this stuff, and you don't even need to buy all this stuff. Like I said, you can get 80% of the way there with like a $60, $70 mic. I mean, really. And learning the techniques for editing and recording and so forth, it's not that expensive anymore.
Yes. And like the tools, the plugins that are coming out, for audition, things like that are only getting better and better and better year over year.
There's a great program called Auphonic. It's web-based.
Okay.
And we use it to master all of our shows. And it is great because we deal with a lot of guests who have
bad mics.
Like the Campfire, because when you're interviewing somebody, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'll just finish my thought and shut up. But when you're interviewing an author, someone, they've usually done this. They're conversant. They know that they need to have, a little bit better sound. They need to be in a quiet place, those kind of things. So for the paranormal podcast, usually when you bring somebody on the line, they're 90% of the way there. But on Campfire, these are average people you're recording. People. And that's a real challenge, because sometimes they're talking into a potato. So God bless them. So, I mean, you have to do more tricks. Obviously you want to get the best source you can get. And it's improved a lot with Zoom and Riverside and different things. They've all improved so much. But there's a great program. That's a tech tip for podcast artists out there. Check out Auphonic. And I think you get so many hours for free. We're above that part now and paying for it, obviously. But we master all our shows with it. And it does some really amazing things with sound reduction, echo reduction, Auphonic. It's a great service. But
that's
go ahead.
Amazing.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, we'll put it in the notes. I guess I was just saying, like, the tools available to you now are absolutely exceptional. One of the tools that you may or may not be aware of is that there's a new restoration plugin called Ascentize DX Revive. I don't know if you've come across it yet. Obviously, if you're using Auphonic, maybe you don't need it. But what it does is it actually repairs bad audio utilizing AI. So like if you have somebody coming through on a potato and they're missing words or it's not quite coming through, it will fix your audio. It's actually pretty exceptional. So not sure if it's part of your stack yet.
I
but
will
if it
check
isn't,
it out. See, this is the thing when you talk to other podcasters, you always learn something.
Yes. Well, I would say it's very similar to Adobe Podcast, but maybe without the artifacts so much.
Yeah, I played with Adobe Podcast, and it's kind of like a more kind of less granular version of Auphonic, but I found it was introducing things that people didn't say. And it's like, I can't use this.
That's right. Hopefully, Adobe, if you're listening, we love it. It's a great tool. It just a little bit more.
Yeah. And again, I haven't used it for a long time because I started when it initially came out. I'm like, nope, I don't think so. But maybe it's better by now. I don't know.
That's it, right? It all gets better in time. Jim, one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about, you mentioned it at the beginning, but, diversification is something that you've leaned heavily into right in the beginning, said we would talk about it. I would love to chat about, the diversification of income that you've managed to generate through podcasting and how you've managed to sustain it for 15 years so far.
Right. Well, I mean, when we first started out, it was solely read ads, which were kind of like the coin of the realm back in the day, the baked in ads and those kind of things. And certainly that's been an important part for years and continues to be an important part. then the Plus Club, has become like the other, was the other half that made it possible for me to start doing this full time. And that's basically where what we say to folks is a couple things you get. First of all, our most recent 13 episodes of the Campfire and Paranormal podcast will always be free. When we come out with a new episode, the oldest episode will go behind the paywall. That's the first thing. You get access to that whole back catalog. I think now at Paranormal Podcast, we've done 900 episodes, and I think we're around 7 something for Campfire now. I'm just trying to look here and see. Yeah, 725. So that's just that. And then we give you 8 additional pieces of content every month. Now, those have changed over the years. We used to just do 8 additional interviews. And up until recently, that's what we did. And they were kind of like mini paranormal podcasts, and we have different actual podcasts for those that we've done hundreds of episodes for. Ancient Mysteries on the Air, The Other Side, The Cryptid Report, UFO, the UFO show Encounters that we do, UFO Encounters. And then we found people weren't listening to those as much. So what we did is we freshened that up. And what we're doing now is we have 3 of those a month that go out. If you're a Plus Club member, nobody else can get those, just Plus Club members. Then we have 5 other additional pieces of content. What we're doing is we're going back from the very first Campfire. We started this. And to your point about the restoration tools, what we're doing is we're calling Campfire Remastered. So we start with episode 1 back in May, and every month we release in chronological order 2 of those episodes, re-release them. Now they're available unvarnished in their original version but we're doing new versions of them where we take out any external ads. Because remember, all these ads were baked in, so I can't just push a button and get rid of all the ads. So we're editing out the ads, and we're also doing audio restoration on each one of them as best we can.
Yeah.
So now, not only do you get the whole back catalog of Campfire, but every month you can get the improved version of these early episodes, and we're just doing that to a month. And at this rate, we could do that for years.
Yes.
And get through that back catalog. And then we also do, I call Campfire's Hidden Gem, which I'll take one story from the back catalog that's not been in the books. It's not been heavily promoted, because certain stories we go back to, you'll be familiar with some of them. These are ones that maybe we forgot about, but listened again and said, well, that's really good. We do the audio restoration on that. We do 2 of those a month. And now I do a behind the scenes with my wife, Dar. And it's basically no theme, nothing. We just get on the mic and talk for about 20 minutes about stuff going on in life. That has nothing to do ostensibly with the paranormal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so basically, if you are a Plus member, you get access to all of our back catalog, which is about 1,600 episodes. Plus you get these, over 1,000 exclusive episodes. So it's over 2,700 pieces of content.
Wow.
And last year when we switched over our Plus Club to a new vendor, the one vendor told us, and this vendor, I won't say who it is, they work with huge companies, multi-million-dollar companies that have podcasting things. Your Plus Club has more content than anybody we've ever worked with. Wow. And we've not raised the price once. Yeah. It's the same price it was in 2011, which was funny because we priced it at $7.95 a month back in 2011, or $79.50 a year. And there's some promo codes and coupons to get deals on your first year, first month, depending on how you sign up. But the funny thing was, at that time, I thought, because I was looking at how much Netflix was charging back in the day when they were still doing CDs and stuff, DVDs. I'm like, God, this is kind of expensive. But now, over time, now it's like, boy, this is really a pretty good bargain.
Yeah.
And it is. I mean, the biggest, we get very few people saying, oh, this is a ripoff. I can't remember the last person who said that it's a ripoff. They might say, I can't afford this anymore. I'm having tough times, which we understand. But, universally, people say there's so much to listen to. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
So that's the Plus Club, 2,700 plus. Then the host read. The other thing that is becoming more important for us, which we didn't do right away, in a strong way, but in the last year or so, dynamic ads, the programmatic ads have come to be much more important. Certainly not more than the host read. Still, the host read is the dominant. But where we don't have host read on our shows, where we don't have host read agreements, we put those in. And we're still very selective. I try to be as selective as I can about the categories we accept, because if anybody's done dynamic advertising, you can go in and say, well, I don't want this and we don't want that. And there's certain things that I don't want to promote. Certainly we don't want to promote the competitors to our host read ads, but I mean, categories I'm not comfortable in promoting, like I don't promote supplements and things like that. Or, you hear different ads for these psychics and things. And if we can figure out where they're at, we click that off. We try to click off anything we feel, there's some borderline cases, like I don't have a problem with having an alcohol ad on the show. Some people might have a problem with that. I don't. I mean, I look as if you watch a football game or a hockey game, you're going to see ads for that. But there are categories we definitely click off, because I don't want to sound like an AM radio station scrapping the bottom of the barrel. And most of the stuff I hear from big national brands, which I love. It's great to hear that on your show, even if it's programmatic. So that's become a big part for us. We're, again, I'm hoping that, a lot of podcasters are doing a lot with personal appearances. I hope that can be more of the revenue stream coming up. So always looking at new ways to diversify. And we have a couple other things I got to kind of keep under my hat for now. But, always looking at new ways, because these things ebb and flow, right? Dynamic ads are up. Host read is down. You've got to learn to roll with the punches. But to me, the most important sources are things you can directly control, like a Plus Club, things that somebody just can't come in and say, oh, well, we don't, because you could have a great sponsor. The thing I learned about advertising sales, it's all about the relationship. And you could have an agency that you've done great business with, and you're known among the staff. Or this could be a direct company. Let's say it's a direct company. That's even a better example. And you get along with the marketing people. They like you, they know you, they trust you, they believe that your show is a fit. They've seen the benefits over the years, and then they get bought out. Mm-hmm. And then somebody else comes in and says, we're not doing things the way the old guys did. Bye. And there's literally nothing you can do about it. Yeah. And I think anybody that's been in a business development position has had that experience, or known somebody that's had that experience, where that's why if you're talking about ad agency, if you're talking about a company, you cannot rely on one client. Yeah. You cannot rely on one income source, because chances are, even if it's great today, it's not always going to be as great as it is now. So if you've got that great client or that great revenue stream, use that as runway to build a second and a third and a fourth revenue stream.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I agree completely. And as somebody too, who is relatively new in my podcasting, right? 3 years in, still cutting my teeth. Obviously it doesn't pay for itself. I still make a lot of my money through coaching and retainer contracts and things along those lines.
But I bet your podcast helps you get those opportunities.
100%. And that was what I was going to say, is that most of those opportunities came because I took the leap into podcasting. So is there other ways that podcasts make money besides ads? And the answer is yes.
I think that's one of the most common ways. I mean, with me, since I'm not a paranormal investigator or something, it's not like somebody's going to hire me to investigate their house or something. I mean, there's no... and I've never really pushed, I guess I had considered it. I could push the podcast consulting thing, because I think I could do a pretty good job of that, but I've never tried, because it's I think it's important I stick to my knitting and do what I do. Never say that I wouldn't do it, but right now I don't think that's the move. But I do want to reiterate one thing. As much as I talk business here, I do still believe in all this stuff. Yeah. I am still interested in this stuff. So it's back to, we've been talking the gym business side of the brain, which is totally there. And I'm totally, as you can probably tell, locked into the business side of it, but I'm equally locked into the other side of it. And I don't think, even if it was successful as a business, I could have done it for this long if I wasn't still truly interested in all the spooky stuff.
Yes.
Which makes it kind of cool.
Totally. Like you have to have both. It has to be both, because if it's not, podcasting it's not like the easiest thing on planet Earth. It's not necessarily the funnest thing on planet Earth when you're trying to hit consistent production schedules, right? There has to be more to it than that. You have to truly enjoy what you're doing. I don't think I could have got this far, so far without really loving podcasting and really just believing in it and loving the people that I meet. And, the reality that we connected, I'm in Canada, you're in the United States. This connection probably couldn't have happened without podcasting.
Right.
It's amazing what it can ultimately do for you. But I think this is a great segue, Jim, into the spooky. I want to. I think I want to get into the spooky with you because, obviously, someone who's listened to podcasts, listened to, Jim Harold's Campfire, the paranormal podcast. I'm a total spooky nerd. My favorite podcasts. I'd have to say you are actually my favorite podcaster. If I could only pick one show, I would listen to your shows. So I appreciate it immensely. What the heck got you into the paranormal? Like, how did you become, the king of the spooky? Because you really have. What was it about paranormal that just drew you in? Did you have your own experiences that pulled you in? What was it?
Well, a couple things. First of all, as a kid growing up, I just loved In Search of with Leonard Nimoy. Now, I have to admit, when that show was on, I was very, very young. I want to stress how young I really was. Almost right out of the what do they call it? Maternity ward. Yeah. No, I was fascinated by that show, and it kind of, informed me that there is more to our lives than what you can weigh on a scale or measure in a test tube. I really, truly believe that. And I believe there are forces we don't understand. Mm-hmm. Now, does that mean that every time somebody thinks they see a Bigfoot, it's really a Bigfoot? Maybe not. Maybe sometimes it's a bear. Maybe sometimes it's a deer. Does that mean every time somebody thinks they see a ghost, they really see a ghost? Maybe not. Maybe sometimes they're mistaken. But I think sometimes people really do see these things. They really do experience them. And that's even been driven home more for me from the Campfire. So when I was thinking back in 2005 what I was going to podcast about, I thought, well, every time I go into a library, every time I go to a bookstore, and in the nascent days of internet browsing, when I browse on the internet, I find a lot of time I'm looking for paranormal stuff, and I'm fascinated by it. Yeah. So wouldn't it be neat to interview these people? And, it'll be fantastic. And within 6 months, I'll have all this stuff figured out. Didn't work out that way. I have more questions now than when I started, but I lucked out. I got unbelievable guests out of the gate. I got Stanton Friedman, I think, was my second guest. He's the guy who basically put Roswell on the map. Yeah. A great UFO researcher. Lloyd Auerbach, one of the greatest parapsychologists out there, has been on numerous TV shows and so forth, still doing it. And really, I think one of the great unsung heroes. And I was just amazed at the people, because nobody knew what a podcast was. Yeah. And now when you try to approach somebody about being on a podcast, it's like, oh, not another podcast. And back then the challenge is, what is a podcast?
Yeah, you had to inform them.
I used to joke. The thing I used to face is I'd say, well, I've got podcasts. And they're like, what's a podcast? Why would you do that? And now I tell people I have a podcast. Well, yeah, everybody has a podcast. My sister has a podcast. My brother has a podcast. My daughter has a podcast. I have a podcast. You want to listen? But I would have had like that middle period, like, oh, that's impressive. But I just skipped right over that period. It went right. Nobody had one to everybody had one. But back to your answer. It's just, I've always had this innate belief that there's more to the eye. And it actually goes back to a couple of stories from my parents. Not my personal experiences, although I've had a couple of weird coincidences that have happened. One that happened to my dad, and my dad, fortunately, is still with us. He's approaching his 90th birthday.
Wow.
And he told this story in the early 60s. He lived in an apartment over a bar. He and my uncle came to our town here in Cleveland, Ohio, to work in the steel mills, which were, going gangbusters back then. And, there were guys just starting out, so they got a cheap apartment over a local bar. So, and it was very small, like 2 rooms and one was in one room and one was in the other, and there was only one way to get in and out of the apartment. So it wasn't like it had 72 doors or anything, just to set it up. And it's funny, at Campfire, people say, well, let me set it up for you. And then they'll give you a 20-minute explanation of the layout of their house. But God bless them. God bless them. But anyway, God bless them. I do love our callers. I really do appreciate them. But anyway, so one night they're both in bed, and my dad wakes up, and there's an old man standing over him with glasses on, smiling, like laughing at him. Now, my dad, in his day, like 220 pounds, 6 foot tall, muscle, steel worker, former football player, tough guy. At this point, he's like, 26 years old? I wouldn't want to be on the other end of that punch. He swings a punch, thin air. And he yells out to my uncle, John, there's somebody in here. There's somebody in here. And my uncle gets up and he has a few non-sayable words. You're just imagine there's nobody in here. Blah, 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 blah. So anyway, about 2 or 3 weeks go by. My dad's asleep. All of a sudden he hears a commotion in the other room. My uncle's like, Jim, get up, there's somebody in here. It was the same guy who was standing over him and smiling. And my uncle, who was 6'2" and 240 pounds and a former football player, swung him, and there was nothing there either.
Wow.
And the thing of it was, and there's another story I'll tell you real quick my parents had, but my dad didn't have pyramids under his bed. He wasn't paranormal investigating. I mean, he's just a working class guy. He told this story the same. If I go ask him about it right now, he might not remember what he had yesterday for dinner, but he'll remember that story and he'll tell it exactly the same way. It's never changed.
Yeah.
Then another story with my mom and my dad. This was probably around 1970, and I was just a baby. So there I outed my age. But I was a very youthful baby. But anyway, so my family was originally I was born and raised in Ohio, but my family's from West Virginia. So they went back to visit my grandma, and he left baby Jimmy with grandma. And my mom and dad went off to this very secluded area, very dark area. I don't want to know why. But anyway, I don't know what they were up to. I don't want to know. So anyway, they were parked. And it was pitch black. And if anybody's ever been in super rural areas, there's no street lights. There's nothing. When it's dark, it's dark. So my dad was driving his 68 Buick LeSabre land yacht, and they're parked. And he said, a light came up in the sky. And by the way, my mom and dad told this story exactly the same. My mom, unfortunately, has passed. But they've told this story the same exact way with one variation, which I'll share. So a light lit up the whole sky.
Wow. For
a minute. So much more that he could read the analog clock on his dashboard.
Yeah.
And when they used to have analog clocks in cars and in the speedometer. And then, now my mom didn't know this part or didn't see this part. He said he turned to his left, and right by the corner of the car, there was a man, what he described, a man in a welding mask with his hand up. And then they said, okay, we've seen enough. Let's get out of here. So he's like burning rubber and getting out of there. And then my mom says in her West Virginia accent, then, Jimmy, we saw the biggest bunch of birds up on that bank of that hill I ever seen in my life. And they had 6 or 8 foot wingspan, these birds. Wow. Like thunderbirds.
Yeah.
And then they thought that it was some kind of experiment or something blew up and they would see something on the news. They never saw anything. Nothing ever happened. And that was the story. And my dad has never changed his retelling of the story. And my mom, until she passed, never. And again, my dad was a little bit interested in things like In Search Of and stuff like that, and unsolved mysteries. My mom had no interest. And still, they both told the same story. And that, to me, those were 2 quintessential campfire stories.
Yes.
That I was groomed with from the time that I was a little kid. And I think somewhere that planted in me, well, my parents wouldn't lie to me. They wouldn't make this up. And I know they wouldn't make it up. Now, I could see somebody saying, I thought I saw a ghost. and misinterpreted. I could get that. Maybe the first story, it could have been a dream or something. I mean, it could have been a shared dream. That second story, I don't know how you explain that.
Yeah.
But regardless, people you trust telling you stories you believe. And I think that made a mark on me. That's probably a way longer answer than you wanted, but that along with Leonard Nimoy, that's what I blame for my fascination with the paranormal.
Well, I know me and Shelby have questioned many times how you go to sleep at night with so many scary stories.
You know what?
In your,
it doesn't
in your
bother
brain.
me though, because in a way, this is going to sound weird. It's not the first time I've been accused of being weird, but it's very reassuring to me. Because what would be less assuring is if I thought that our life represented what we see here every day was the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm in my 50s. If I'm lucky, I've got 30 years left, if I'm lucky. If I'm really lucky, maybe 40, but I'd have to be really lucky. And I'd hate to think that it's all over after that. I don't think it's all over after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Has your opinion of things changed? I know the answer to this is probably yes, from the beginning of the show to now. Listening to your show over time, there's been two things specifically that have stuck out and freaked me out a little bit. The first is time slips.
Yes.
The amount that they come up on Campfire blows my mind. It's incredible, actually, how often time slips have come up on Campfire.
Yep.
And it's like, what is happening there? And the second one is the doppelganger stuff.
I knew you were going to say that.
I don't think I'd ever even heard of a doppelganger.
I've heard of it, but I never knew it was such a big deal. But so many people have called in. Here's a typical experience. And it's not one specifically I'm thinking of, but here's what it'll be. Well, my husband, was at work and I was home, or you could invert it. It could be the wife was, at work. And then, I heard them come in. They may have even spoken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I didn't hear any more from them. And then 20 minutes they came in and said, weren't you just here? And I say, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What is that all about? Now it could be a time slip, right?
Yeah.
It could be like a dimensional slip, like if you believe in the multiverse.
Yeah.
Then it could be an alternate version of a universe where he or she did come home 20 minutes earlier. And
right.
You jump that track. Or some people think that it's like an imposter, like some evil kind of thing. We had one of the most frightening ones. This woman, her husband was in the military, and every morning he would go for a jog. And one day she woke up and she felt him in bed with her, spooning her.
Yeah.
That's kind of odd. He usually doesn't do that. And it felt just like her. And then she realized that it was something that looked like her husband, but was just a little bit off. And she said a prayer. Yeah, I know. Isn't that something? It's
so
terrifying.
Bad, yeah.
It's in the bed with you. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And then she said a prayer. And the thing said, don't say that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I hate it.
I'm like,
I hate
okay,
that.
get me out of here. And eventually she prayed some more and it went away. Yeah.
In my mind, those doppelganger ones are the worst possible things that come up on Campfire. Yeah. They are just so bad because it's like, what is worse than thinking it's somebody you know and love?
Yeah.
And it not being them, right? Like, and it being, like you said, like a slightly off version.
Yeah.
Like I can't quite get it 100%. Like that just freaks the crap out of me. Like I would rather just like a ghost any day of the week than like your own, like, Shelby or the boys or something. And it's just like, but it's not them.
Yeah. Another one happened in the very early days of Campfire. I think this was because we have 6 books out. I think it was in the first book. This woman lived in a trailer, a mobile home. And her daughter, who was at school, walks in the front door and proceeds to curse her up a blue streak. And then she walks down the little hall and slams her door. And the mother thought, what was that all about? About 10 minutes later, her daughter comes through the front door. Says, hey, Mom, how you doing? How's your day? She's like, what are you talking about? You just came in here 10 minutes ago and cursed me up a blue streak and ran to your room. And she said, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my
God. They went back to the room and there was no one there.
Yeah.
Yikes. Now that doppelganger thing is kind of a little microcosm of how I think about these things. Like maybe when the shows first started, I thought, oh, that's obviously an evil spirit.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, well, it's more like a multiple choice question. And could it be all of the above? So there's a quote that I heard that it kind of, because I believe more so than ever, this stuff is real. Again, doesn't mean that every account is real. No. But are there a certain amount of accounts? And I always default to belief when I talk to people on the show. I am not Mike Wallacing them. It's old American journalist. I'm not like confronting them and say, well, really, I don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm treating this as though they're telling the truth. And I believe the vast, vast majority are telling the truth as they experienced it. But does this mean that every ghost story is really a ghost, or every cryptid story is really a cryptid, or every UFO story is really an alien? No. But I do believe that there is a percentage, that there's absolutely something to that we cannot explain through normal explanations. And I believe that more so than I ever have believed.
Yeah.
But as to the explanation for them, I'm less convinced than ever. There's a great quote that kind of gets that across. I forget who said it. Not only is the universe stranger than we understand, it is stranger than we can understand. And I wonder if that's really the truth of it. But it's fun.
Well,
it's fun trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing too is like only one has to be true for it to be true, right?
That's right.
And that's like, when you consider how many people, and you might actually know you might have this number at the top of your head. How many people have you interviewed for Campfire?
Well, it's
got to be thousands.
Yeah. If you think, okay, well, in the early days, the show was only a half hour. Then it expanded 45 minutes, went to hour. Now we average about 10 callers. So let's say the average is 6 or 7 callers. Let's say it's 7. So that would be about 5,000.
Wow.
Now it might be more, it might be less, but it's definitely and that's just Campfire. I mean, we certainly have the other shows that we've done, over 2,000 episodes on. But it's definitely into the thousands of stories. And the great thing I love about the Campfire, and I hope that this is part of the reason you guys keep listening all these years, there's always something different.
Yeah.
You think, okay, here we've got another story about this. And then the person will make a sharp left turn and they'll go in a totally different direction. It's like, oh my God, I wasn't seeing that coming.
Yeah.
And that's what I think continues to make it interesting, is that there's so many different experiences. Yeah, there's certain stories fall into certain categories, but there's still a ton of variety. And again, always new things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I grew up, I had experiences growing up, and I actually had one, I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago now. We used to have a board game night at our place when I lived in Spruce Grove. We used to have a board game night, me and my roommate and my friends. So every Friday we'd sit down, we'd pull out the board games, we'd order pizza, beer, whatever, and play board games. It was an awesome time. And this one night, it was a blizzard outside. And we hadn't really had any experiences in this house before then, but there was just a wicked blizzard outside. It had been snowing for 3 or 4 hours. I know you're very familiar with that in Ohio. So obviously, if somebody was to walk up to the house, there would be footprints. You would see it.
Yep.
It's about 9:30, 9:50, somewhere in there. We're playing board games, and there are 3 loud knocks on the front door. And the dogs absolutely lose it. They run to the door. They're jumping up. And I'm like, Mike, like, who's here? Like, who in the world is at our house? It's like 9:50 at night on a Friday night. It's just us. We're playing board games. My roommate goes down. He looks out the window, and he looks back at me just white as a ghost. He goes, Kelly, there's no footprints. There's no one here. And he is the biggest skeptic, Jim. And to this day, he'll like tell that story. I'll tell that story, and he will just look like he's mad because he can't rationalize what happened. But absolutely, something happened that night. Somebody knocked on our front door who was not there. And
that's one of the big things that I say on the show, is that you could run into some of the most skeptical people you want, but if you start talking, something like this might come out of their mouth. Well, I don't believe in any of this stuff, but there was this one time.
That's right.
And then I'll tell you this crazy Campfire story.
Yeah. No, it's been incredible. Shell, do you want to tell yours from when you were in Hinton?
Well, it did occur to me because the time slip aspect was coming up of the paranormal. And I did have an experience when I was about 18. And it's one of those things where you do really rationalize it and you kind of think, did that actually happen? You know, a number of years go by and you
Right.
think, you know, I know it happened, but you know, did it? You start to question yourself. But yeah, I'm 18. I'm with some friends. We're on our way to a house party. And so, of course, we're on our way to the house party. So there's no substances involved yet at this point in the night. And it's very dark outside, you know, kind of a quiet, smaller part of the town. Hinton, Alberta is not a very big city to begin with, but we're in even a more remote sort of area of the town. And side of the road, strangest thing, a whole family, of course, headlights illuminating just a portion of the road because it's so dark, no street lights, same thing. And just as we're heading down the street, peripherally, whole family dressed in, you know, those late era or early era, I suppose you would say, attire, almost like look like they're waiting for a bus or like they're traveling, you know, full dresses, suits, and just a whole family. And of course, we're just going by. So you see them and you're like, what did we just see? Like, what's that? Made no sense. Middle of the night. And I've just always, it stuck with me. And I think these things stick with you because you know they're illogical. Like that something just
wrong.
happened that didn't quite make sense.
We have someone who called in and said that they believe that they saw dinosaurs.
Oh my goodness.
And you know what? I mean, I know that sounds wacky, but I'm not going to say that they didn't see dinosaurs. Right. I mean, maybe there was some kind of weird time slip. It reminds me, in other words, or another example of being accepting. There was a great story guy told, and this goes back. He was even older than I am. No, but this goes back to the late 60s for him when he was a little kid. He said he used to see what he interpreted as a leprechaun, and he kind of was ashamed to tell anybody. He never told his brother. And then 20 years later, they were having dinner together for some holiday or something. He said, I got something I've been wanting to tell you for years. Got to get it off my chest. When I was a kid, I used to see a leprechaun. He used to come and visit me at night. And the brother looked at me. He's like, oh, my God. You saw him too? And he wasn't joking.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And the thing was it an actual leprechaun? Probably not, but might have it been some kind of entity or something that presented itself in that way or something close to that, and him as a little kid interpreted it that way? Absolutely. So again, I just think, and it's cool in a way. I mean, it's scary sometimes, but it's also cool to think that we live in a world that still has so much mystery that we've not uncovered. We see this with the space probes and the recent findings on Mars and things. We just don't understand as much as we think we do, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that is a great place to end today's show, Jim. Honestly, honor, privilege. This show wouldn't exist without you. Thank you so much for everything you've done for podcasting and, frankly, for just being such a major part of not only my show, but my family.
Well, it is a great honor on all scores. I hope everybody gets to check out, particularly this time of the year, Jim Harold's Campfire. I think that's kind of the main show to check out. And you graduate to the other ones when you get a chance, but there's always free episodes up there, 90 minutes every week of spooky stories. Check it out. And to both of you, Kelly and Shelby, thank you. I'm honored by being on the show. I'm even more honored that the Campfire has a place in your family. And happy Halloween and stay spooky.
Happy Halloween and stay spooky, Jim.
Thank you so much.
Until next time, you've been listening to the Business Development Podcast, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
This has been the Business Development Podcast with Kelly Kennedy. Kelly has 15 years in sales and business development experience within the Alberta oil and gas industry and founded his own business development firm in 2020. His passion and his specialization is in customer relationship generation and business development. The show is brought to you by Capital Business Development, your business development specialists. For more, we invite you to the website at www.capitalbd.ca. See you next time on the Business Development Podcast.
Hey, rock stars. If you've been on the entrepreneurship journey for a while, you know this feeling. In all the interviews, in all the coaching calls, one truth kept coming up over and over again. Leadership is lonely. Business development is lonely. And entrepreneurship is lonely. You can't just talk to anyone about it. That's why I created the Catalyst Club, a private, values-driven community where you can speak the truth, be your authentic self, and connect with people who understand what you're going through and can actually help. We made it private so you feel safe. We made it affordable so no one gets left out. And we built it on values that matter, like showing up, sharing knowledge, and choosing growth over ego. Inside, you'll find coffee with rock stars for real talk and connection, unplugged Q&A for live coaching and clarity, and Catalyst sessions with world-class experts who light a fire under your next move. We're building the most supportive business community on the internet, and we want you to help us do it. Join us today at kellykennedy.official.com. We're just getting started.